So, what are my favorite things from GenCon, you might ask? Here's the thing. The week leading up to GenCon, I wasn't even quite sure that I would actually be going. My social anxiety kicked up a huge storm for me, and I kind of locked up at the thought of it. Even the first day, I was miserable. I mean, throughout the entire time I was at GenCon, I was actually pretty miserable. But I kind of like just grin and bear it and just go through it, and I did have some fun. But the top 5 things that I enjoyed most from GenCon, or the top 5 things that happened at GenCon for me. Number 5, I'd say probably CarPG. We didn't actually do it leading up to GenCon. Going up to GenCon, a lot of that was kind of, for me, sleep. There was a lack of sleep going up to GenCon. A lot of stress and everything. So, but CarPG, where we didn't film this one, we didn't record it. It was just for fun. Sean, Caitlin, Brian, and I DM'd again, which I find a lot more entertainment in DMing than actually playing lately. So, CarPG, number 5. Number 4, I would say just number 4. I would have to say probably I don't know, like, it's way too broad. So the overall GenCon experience, number 4. Because I have that anxiety, it was a bit much for me to take in initially, and even still on the last day it was a bit much, but I was much better by Sunday. So the overall GenCon experience as a whole, I'd say, is number 4, just because GenCon in itself is an experience that I did want to experience as a fan of board games and the like. So that would be my number 4. Number 3, probably the game areas, like Mayfair, Czech, Rio Grande, those rooms, those areas, those play areas, especially Mayfair's game night on Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts, the NFL team Colts, play. That was a really cool thing, to be able to play board games where pro teams play. So that would be my number 4. Or, sorry, number 3. That'd be number 3, because I can't count right now. So many distractions. This is going to be a long video, I feel like. Sorry, Sean. So yeah, game rooms, game areas, number 3. Number 2, number 2 and number 1 are really, I don't know. I'll say I just don't have a number 2, because tied for number 1 are 2 items. So number 2 I don't have, but tied for number 1 is 1, interviewing Alison and Haislip. That was incredible, to be able to meet her and discuss gaming with her interest in board games, what got her into it and everything. It was me nerding out about even just talking to Alison and Haislip, something that I never thought would ever happen. the only reason I was interviewing her was because I was the only one of the the three of us that actually knew who she was through G4, through Will Wheaton's Tabletop, being a guest star on that, interviews through Nerd Machine, Nerd Headquarters, during Comic-Con, BattleBots, that kind of thing. So, just being able to, like, nerd out completely, like, just fanboy out and be able to interview someone that I would consider a celebrity. So that was really cool, just to get to know her. As well as tied for number one is finding my role within Gamers Remorse. I felt like ever since Sean and Brian had kind of pulled me in to be a partner, I hadn't really been able to figure out where my role was. I mean, because these two were the premier of the three of us. Like, they were the primary, sorry, not premier, primary reviewers. I was there as kind of an additional voice and guest host. So once they kind of pulled me in as more of a partner rather than an intern, we'll say, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do or what I was supposed to be doing. But through GenCon, I was able to kind of find my comfort zone and find my role within Gamers Remorse, and I was able to talk to a couple of people and be able to pull in maybe interest in our reviews and everything. So I think for me that was a big thing for me, especially with my social anxiety, struggling with that, being able to go up to someone and talk and ask for their time and their interest, which is something I just don't do, or I've never done. So those would be my top 5. I want to say I want to go to Gen Con again. The overall experience was a good one, but it still had me frozen for quite a bit. There was actually a time where Sean and Brian thought I was a half an hour away from Gen Con because I had accidentally sent my location through a message and it was a half an hour away, and so they thought that I had enough with the crowds and I just bolted. But in reality I was actually in the vendor hall, just talking to people. So yeah, it was a good experience. I'm not saying it's a great experience. I'm not saying it's an amazing experience for me personally, just because I struggle with that social anxiety. But that being said, it was a good experience. I do recommend it. Even if you do struggle with social anxiety, like, let the games come first. Like, it's hard to ignore the crowds, but once you're able to focus on, like, learning the rules to a game, or realizing that there's game designers around you that you're a fan of, and being able to kind of nerd out about those things, the crowds kind of disappear. And I'm not saying it's going to be the same for everyone, but it's great, like, to be able to focus on one thing and let that be the focus, rather than focusing on the anxiety and the stress of all the people around you and all the germs they might have and everything. So that being said, those are my top 5. And Gen Con, the 50th anniversary this year, it was a good experience, and we'll see if I go again. Maybe next time I'll bring someone with. I don't know. I mean, I have Brian and Sean. They're great and all, but spooning with Sean at night is just not my thing. I mean, he might think so, but We're gonna edit this out, right, Sean? Nah. But yeah. I've gone on for 10 minutes and apparently I'm still going, so have fun editing this, Sean.